Hey friends, it's Ian Khan again at Consensus 2025. I've got Lorien with me. I want to know what their company does. There's something disruptive. There's something good coming up. So Lorien, take it away, my friend.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here. I appreciate your time. I'm one of the co-founders of Figment. We are the world's largest independent staking provider, and I'll talk about what staking is because there's no real analog in the traditional financial world to what we do. But we're 150 people. We're actually a Toronto-based company, although our biggest office is in New York, and we also have offices in Singapore and London and now LATAM, so a global company, or at least global aspirations, and we serve institutions exclusively, so we're not a consumer-focused company.
So for the non-crypto audience, I mean, if somebody told me it's going to be about staking, I would think about a juicy steak.
Yeah,
but it's
or a vampire.
Or a vampire, but it's not about the steak at all. Not. You know, with crypto, the digital economy, there's many things that, you know, need an explanation. Right. I know what staking is. Help us understand in very simple ways, what does that mean?
So there's really two operating systems, and they're not technically operating systems for blockchains. One of them is proof of work, which is what Bitcoin runs on. You've probably heard about large data centers consuming a lot of electricity, miners competing to produce the next block, and they get Bitcoin in return, and that's what maintains the Bitcoin network. And that works, that's very effective. But around 6 or 7 years ago, people were looking to see if there was a more energy efficient, a different way of basically securing a decentralized blockchain. And that's something called proof of stake as opposed to proof of work. And so proof of stake, which is really proof that you've locked up some value, some tokens in Ethereum or Solana, and are running a node and then participating in maintaining that blockchain. Yeah. So if you have 32 ETH, if you have 10 Solana, which are the two most well-known proof of stake blockchains, you can effectively run a node by staking your tokens and participate in consensus. It's as if you had a credit card and you could run a terminal at home and process credit card transactions for other credit card users and then get some rewards back for doing that.
Yeah, and you're out of Toronto, and you know, Toronto is not necessarily the crypto capital to the world, right? We're like any other major city in North America, right? North America, where we've got an amazing infrastructure when it comes to regular financial, you know, banks and so on.
Yep.
How is cryptocurrency or digital or tokenization making its way now into the North American economy, right? We're seeing regulations now changing in the US as well. So help us understand the broader layout between US and Canada, North American perspective on where we are today.
So the interesting thing about the crypto industry, unlike Silicon Valley, there's not really a center for the industry, which is why there's conferences all over the world all the time. There's not really, there's some heat and mass in like New York City, but there's really no crypto center. Like it doesn't really exist. So it is a very decentralized industry, both in where the people and companies are and protocols, and also, of course, it's based on decentralization. So I would say that for the first time in my 30 plus years of being an entrepreneur, our first 3 companies were based in Toronto, in Canada. That Canada has been ahead of the US in many respects, mostly due to regulation. So up until the current administration, it was a very unfriendly environment in the US, and that held back a large part of the industry within the US. And Canada has really been ahead of the US in that respect. You saw, for example, 3iQ just launched a Solana ETF with staking, i.e. yield, enabled in that. So the US will catch up this year, but for the last 4 or 5 years, I would say that Canada's definitely been ahead.
Canada undoubtedly is the blockchain capital of the world. I really, truly believe that.
Yep, because there's an amazing number of founders who I met here who are from Toronto and from Canada.
And you know, Ethereum founder Vitalik, he was from here, and so on. So we have a good history with with decentralization in general. Where is industry today when it comes to digital money, cryptocurrency, as a globe? You're working in different regions as well. How do you see maturity in Latin America or the Middle East or Asia? What's your perspective on that?
So every region has its specific use cases and level of development. For example, in South America, there's a lot of countries with really high inflation traditionally, and so stable coins have gained adoption and been very popular. There's other areas like in Asia where it's more of a trading culture, and so you'll see more DeFi being done and more trading, like high frequency type trading. So every market kind of has its unique characteristics. I would say overall, we've basically found two large use cases: Bitcoin and digital gold as an asset, and Ethereum basically is a payment rails for stablecoins, USDC, Tether, etc. And those two use cases are growing significantly. They're well proven. I think they're well established. The stablecoin market continues to grow, and I think we're still waiting for another mass adoption use case. We're seeing real world assets come online, and there's a bunch of possibilities. But I think we've basically, if you want to be honest and fair about it, we found two large use cases for blockchains, and we'll see what comes next.
Yeah. When we talk about other industry, parts of other industry that are going to have growth as a result of the core growing here, what is it? Is it data centers? Is it ASICs manufacturers? Is it specialty hardware? What other things does this fuel?
Right. Well, certainly with respect to Bitcoin mining, you'll continue to see the hardware and electricity requirements. Interesting, a lot of those are being deployed toward large language models and AI and the hyperscalers. So it's kind of interesting to see some of the Bitcoin mining activity go that way and sort of watch that competition. It's kind of an interesting side thing that isn't specifically related to crypto, but there are now some, AI is really driving data center and electricity usage at scale, and that's competing with some of the Bitcoin mining going on. It's kind of an interesting trend, but really around more traditional crypto outside of Bitcoin, it's more of an application and software game where we're looking for applications to be built above the infrastructure layer, and I don't think you're going to see things like hardware being driven or anything unique in that respect.
Excellent. Let's talk about the next 5 years. I want to get your insight, and not prediction. You can't predict anything, but where do you think's headed in the next 5 years, or what would be an ideal scenario if you had the magic wand to see, hey, here's where I need things to go in the next 5 years?
Right. Well, in the short term in the U.S., you're going to see a regulatory framework that's been released that will make at least institutional adoption come online in the U.S. So we're going to see greater adoption in that respect over the next few years in the U.S., basically due to regulatory clarity. So that's going to be great. Globally, I think you're going to continue to see expansion of stable coins. There really is a lot of product market fit there. And then I think we're going to see some, I personally believe that blockchains are really good for capital formation, and that got ruined by the ICO boom and some of the negative consequences and fraud, et cetera, that happened then. But I really think it's actually a better mechanism for raising capital in certain ways. And so I think we're going to see a number of applications that make it easier for startups and existing companies to raise capital on blockchains once we have the regulatory frameworks. And I think that's actually one of the original uses. That sort of fell out of favor post the ICO boom, but I think is actually what blockchains are very good for.
Very cool. What do you think about, and there's many things I'm hearing at the show. You're looking at decentralized AI, open source AI, open source blockchain with AI. Like there's so many different flavors of technology stacks coming together. Anything in particular that you guys are looking at in terms of, hey, this would be an amazing thing if it happens?
Not specifically around AI. We have a general view that wherever there's money or traditional brokerage accounts, you're going to have a crypto symbol beside that. And wherever you have that crypto symbol, you're going to have the equivalent of a checking and a savings account. And staking, what we do is underlies the savings account. So we really see that everywhere there's money, whether it's a brokerage or a traditional bank, there's going to be a crypto rails, and those things are going to continue to grow.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us. Really appreciate it.
That was awesome.
Wish you all the best.
Awesome.
All right, thanks.
You.